He simply thought he was hiring a new maid. He never imagined that the young woman he was about to open his door to was carrying a past he had buried 30 years ago, a past he believed was gone forever. They say that time hides our mistakes, but time does not erase them. It only keeps them safe, until the right moment comes to bring them back. When their eyes met for the very first time, something squeezed tight inside Mr. Caleb's chest. A strange feeling. A pull he could not explain. Like recognizing a song you haven't heard since you were young, but cannot quite remember the name of. What he did not know yet, what he could not possibly have known, was that the young woman standing at his door was his own daughter. The child he had abandoned before she was even born. The child he had never once gone looking for. Hello friends. Welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? New York? Trinidad and Tobago? Maybe South Africa or Jamaica? We want to know. The morning was still and quiet in Mr. Caleb's large villa. He was sitting in his office, which opened into the living room, going through a stack of documents with the same focused expression he wore every single day. His coffee sat on the corner of the desk, cooling slowly. He hadn't touched it in 20 minutes. He didn't notice. Mr. Caleb was 61 years old. He was a tall man with graying hair, a straight back, and eyes that were sharp and careful, the kind of eyes that didn't miss much. He had built his company, Caleb and Partners Construction, from almost nothing, through years of hard work and very few shortcuts. He was respected in the city. People called him sir without being asked to. He lived alone in this big, beautiful house. And most of the time, that was exactly how he liked it. There was a soft knock at the office door. He looked up. It was Grace, his housekeeper of 5 years. She was standing in the doorway in her work clothes, her hands folded neatly in front of her, her usual warm smile on her face. But that morning, something about her face was different. A little tense. A little careful. "Sir," she said gently. "Can I speak with you?" "Of course, Grace." He set down his pen and gestured toward the chair across from his desk. "Come in. Sit down." She came in and sat, placing her hands on her knees, one on top of the other. She looked like someone who had been practicing what to say and still wasn't quite sure how to say it. Mr. Caleb waited. He was a patient man. After a short silence, Grace took a slow, deep breath. "Sir," she said, "I have made a decision. I am going to stop working here." The words landed like something heavy being set down on the floor. Mr. Caleb stayed very still. He looked at her for a moment without speaking. "Stop working here," he repeated quietly. "Grace, have I done something wrong? Is there a problem you haven't told me about?" She shook her head quickly and her smile came back. A real smile this time, full of something that looked like hope. "No, sir. No problem at all. On the contrary." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I have been saving money for a long time. Little by little, every month. And last week, I enrolled in a training program." She lifted her chin slightly with quiet pride. "It has been my dream for a very long time, sir, to become a certified caregiver. I want something more for my life, something stable, something meaningful. I feel ready now." A silence settled over the room. Then slowly Mr. Caleb's face changed. The stiffness softened. He nodded, not the quick nod he gave when approving business decisions, but a slower one, more thoughtful. "Grace," he said, "I will be honest with you, I did not see this coming." He looked at her steadily. "But I understand. And I am proud of you. I mean that." Her eyes went a little bright. "Thank you, sir. You have always been fair to me. It is because of this work, this salary, that I was able to save it all. I owe you more than you know." He waved his hand slightly, the way he always did when he didn't want too much fuss. But there was something in his eyes now, a quiet concern. "I will miss you," he said simply. "And I won't pretend otherwise. This house is large. I cannot manage without someone to help me. You know that." Grace sat up a little straighter. She had been waiting for exactly this moment. "I know, sir. And I did not want to leave you without a solution. So I have already thought of someone." She placed both palms flat on her knees. "A young woman I know well. She was my neighbor years ago when I lived in the old neighborhood. She is calm, hardworking, and very respectful. She has been looking for steady work for some time now." She paused. "She is a serious person, sir. I can say that honestly." Mr. Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly, not with suspicion, but with the habit of a man who had learned to think carefully before agreeing to anything. "Someone you know well?" he said. "Not just someone you've met a few times?" "No, sir. I have known her for years. I spoke to her yesterday. She is willing to come and try." If you agree, I can bring her with me tomorrow morning and introduce her properly. That was Grace. Even while leaving a job, she was still thinking about the person she was leaving behind. That kind of loyalty was rare, and Mr. Caleb knew it. He studied her face for a few long seconds. Then he gave a single nod. All right, he said. If you trust her, then I will trust your judgment. Bring her tomorrow. I am counting on you. Grace's smile spread wide and warm across her whole face. Thank you, sir. You will not regret it. She stood, bowed her head slightly the way she always did, and walked back toward the kitchen. Mr. Caleb watched her go. He felt something, a small, quiet melancholy, the way you feel when something comfortable is about to change. But he also felt something else underneath it. Something he couldn't quite name. He picked up his pen and looked back at his documents. Just a new maid, he told himself. A small change. Nothing more. He tried to return to his work. The words on the page were the same words they had been 5 minutes ago. But somewhere deep in his chest, something was humming. A low, strange feeling. Like the air before a storm, when everything goes very still and the birds stop singing and the world holds its breath for just a moment, right before everything changes. He did not know why he felt it. He did not know that tomorrow morning, a young woman would walk through his front door and bring 30 years of buried truth back with her, carried quietly without knowing it, in her face, in her eyes, in the name written on a birth certificate she kept folded in her bag. He did not know any of that yet. He simply picked up his cold coffee, took one sip, made a small face and went back to his documents. Outside, the city went on as usual. Loud and bright and rushing forward, the way cities always do. And somewhere across town, a young woman named Rebecca was combing her hair, putting on a clean blouse and getting ready to go meet her friend Grace. She had no idea what tomorrow would bring. Neither did he. Rebecca had lived in the same small apartment for 4 years. It was on the 4th floor of a tired old building that groaned when the wind blew and had a lift that worked maybe 3 days out of 7. The walls were thin, the windows were small, and in the rainy season, a patch of damp appeared in the corner of the ceiling like an uninvited guest who refused to leave. But the apartment was hers. She had paid for it herself, kept it clean herself, fixed what she could herself. And in the way that a place becomes yours not because it is beautiful but because you have poured your quiet effort into it, it was home. Her room was simple. A narrow bed with a blue blanket folded neatly at the foot. A wooden table with 2 chairs. A small shelf holding a few books, a well-worn Bible and one framed photograph. The photograph was of her mother. Her name had been Victoria. She was young in the picture, maybe 20, maybe 21, standing in a garden somewhere, her head tilted back slightly, laughing at something just outside the frame. She looked free. She looked like someone who had not yet been hurt by the world. Rebecca looked at that photograph every morning. Not always for long. Sometimes just a glance, a greeting almost, a way of saying I remember you. I still carry you with me. This morning she looked at it a little longer than usual. She wasn't sure why. She touched the edge of the frame gently, the way she always did, and then set it down and finished getting ready. Her mother had raised her alone from the very beginning. Rebecca had grown up knowing only one parent, one pair of hands that braided her hair in the mornings, one voice that said her name at night, one person who showed up every single time. Victoria had worked as a seamstress, taking in clothes to mend and alter from people in the neighborhood. She worked from a small table near the window, her needle moving fast and steady, her reading glasses sliding down her nose. They didn't have much, but they had enough. And Victoria made sure Rebecca always felt it. She bought Rebecca books. She helped her with homework even when she was exhausted. She made sure Rebecca went to church every Sunday in a clean dress, even if the dress had been mended at the hem. On Rebecca's birthdays she would bake a small cake, nothing fancy, just a simple vanilla cake with a little icing, and sing to her in a soft, slightly off-key voice that Rebecca had loved completely. Rebecca had been happy. In the simple, uncomplicated way that children are happy when they feel safe and loved. But there had always been one question sitting quietly at the back of everything. Where is my father? She had asked it for the first time when she was about 6 years old. She had come home from school where a teacher had asked the class to draw a picture of their family, and Rebecca had drawn herself and her mother and then looked at the empty space beside them and not known what to put there. Victoria had been quiet for a long time after that question. She was mending a blue dress, and she kept her eyes on the needle when she finally answered. His name was Simon, she said. Her voice was flat and careful, like someone walking on a floor they were not sure would hold them. We were young. Things did not work out. But where is he? Rebecca had pressed. Does he know about me? Pause. The needle went in and out of the fabric. He knew, Victoria said. very quietly. He chose not to stay. Rebecca had not fully understood it then. She was 6. But she had understood the feeling, the way her mother's shoulders dropped slightly when she said those words, the way she set the dress down for just a moment and pressed her lips together before picking it up again. She understood it better as she got older. And when she was 16, her mother became sick. It came quickly. That was the thing about it. One week Victoria had a cough. The next week she was tired in a way that sleep did not fix. By the 3rd week she could not get out of bed. A neighbor took them to the hospital, and the doctor spoke in a low voice that Rebecca was not supposed to hear but did. She sat outside the ward on a hard plastic chair and stared at the floor and felt the world rearranging itself around her into a shape she did not want. Her mother died on a quiet Tuesday morning. The ward was bright with morning sun. A nurse had opened the window. There was a bird singing outside, a loud, cheerful, completely inappropriate bird, and Victoria had looked at Rebecca and held her hand and said her name once softly like a full sentence. And then she was gone. Rebecca was 16 years old. She was alone. And she had a question that now had no one left to answer it. She had finished school on a scholarship for children who had lost parents. She had worked small jobs, helping at a grocery store, washing clothes for neighbors, running errands for a pharmacy nearby. She had learned to stretch money the way her mother had taught her, carefully, without waste. She had built a small life. Quiet, independent, dignified. But she had never been able to stop wondering. Not in a loud, angry way. Rebecca was not an angry person. But in a still, deep way, the kind of wondering that lives at the bottom of you, that you carry around without noticing it until something bumps into it and reminds you it is there. Who was he? Was he still alive? Did he ever think about her? Did he ever wonder what happened to the child he had walked away from? Did he even remember? She never spoke these questions out loud to anyone. They felt too private, too raw. Like showing someone a bruise you'd learned to protect. She simply carried them. The way she carried everything, quietly and without complaint. Grace's message had come the evening before, just after Rebecca had finished eating. Can you come tomorrow morning? I have something to talk to you about. I think it might be good news for you. Rebecca had smiled at her phone. Grace was like that, always looking out for her, always thinking of ways to help without making it feel like help. They had been neighbors years ago, back when Rebecca first moved to the city, and Grace had been the first person to knock on her door with a plate of food and a wide smile and no expectation of anything in return. That kind of friendship stayed. She replied, "I'll be there." And now, the next morning, she locked her apartment door, tucked her keys into her bag, and made her way down the 4 flights of stairs and out into the city. The bus was crowded the way it always was. Rebecca stood near the window and watched the city move past her. The bread sellers pushing their carts. The school children walking in pairs, bags bouncing on their backs. The yellow taxis honking at nothing in particular. A woman on the side of the road selling tomatoes from a wide metal tray balanced on her head, completely still, completely unbothered by the noise around her. Rebecca watched it all and felt the quiet, ordinary comfort of a morning that seemed like any other morning. She got off at her stop, walked down 2 streets, and turned onto the wide, calm road lined with tall palm trees. She had been here before, once or twice, to visit Grace, and she always felt the same thing when she turned onto this street. A slight shift, like